we've seen, as you know, 500,000 children trafficked over a 4-year period in the United States. This administration is going to investigate every instance of child trafficking, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, child smuggling, and all the attendant crimes involved in that. And our message to everyone in the country is to cooperate fully with immigration and customs enforcement so that we can end the scourge of child trafficking and child abuse that has been endemic these last 4 years.
There he is, the boss dog, out in the jungle. Let's hope he don't get eaten. Watching the world burn, November 26th and 27th, 2025. Let's get into it. I got one hell of a video today for you. Of course, we got that clip up front. Reason I'm doing that is a lot of getting pushback from people saying that they don't believe that the Democrats were trafficking children. And as more and more evidence comes out, I'm going to keep pointing this out on the video, and that's why I put that clip up front to talk about that. I mean, the Democrats are pure evil, man, and a lot of people just don't understand. They're going like, nah, that can't be. They wouldn't do something like that. They did, man. They did, and they profited off of it. Anyway, so let's just get into, we're going to start reading here. So this is Josh Dunlap, 1974. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says the administration will expose the child trafficking that's been happening at the border and everyone involved. This administration is going to investigate every instance of child trafficking, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, child smuggling, and all attendant crimes involved in that. Our message to everyone in the country is to cooperate fully with the immigration and customs enforcement so that we can end the scourge of child trafficking and child abuse that has been endemic these last 4 years. And I want to add to that. I mean, it's endemic because the Democrats wanted it. You understand, if you know a Democrat, that they were for child trafficking? Oh, they didn't know. That's a reason. You know, that's the only reason they voted Democrat. They didn't know. How can you not know, man? If you're bringing 30 million people across the border, what do you think is happening? I mean, if they're that stupid, do you really want to hang around them? Excuse me. So anyway, the next topic I wanted to get into, this is just fun, man. This is just a fun topic. I should save this for the end of the video, but you got to get this up front. Did you check out those outfits that Melania Trump had on when Trump landed in North Carolina and then California? I mean, I was looking at them. She had them great big sunglasses, man. They were cool as shit looking, weren't they? And I mean, I was thinking, man, she looks like Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider. I mean, it's exactly what she looked. Badass, man. She looked like she was going to karate kick you. You know, I mean, it was just so cool looking. And of course, what she wore to the inauguration was cool also. You know, we'll just keep swinging back and forth because I can't get too far from the dog. But I just had to comment on those outfits. You know, and that wild hat at the inauguration, a lot of people were speculating that was meant to be a gangster hat, and that they were signaling what Trump was going to be. And by the way, he just put out a photo of him as a gangster. We'll get into that story here in just a minute. So this is now, if this doesn't tell you that January 6th was a setup, I don't know what will. You know, I mean, but here, this is from Josh Dunlap again. Dunlap. FBI scrubs all January 6 content from websites on day one of the Trump era. Investigation details, suspect photos, and seeking information pages vanish without explanation as the Bureau quietly removes the largest probe in its history. Source, NBC News. So I'm going to try to keep sourcing these for you. So yeah, out of NBC News, of course, he posted it. So then we got a video. And I'm going to put this up front. because, I mean, it's a long video. It's about 5 minutes long. So if you want to fast forward 5 minutes and you don't care, but it's about the history of the Panama Canal. And, you know, when Trump was saying that stuff, you know, that we need to take the Panama Canal back and all that other stuff, you know, I got to thinking about that. At first, I really didn't believe him. Did you think? Especially when he was going to buy Greenland, you know, all the stuff that he comes out with. But, you know, I was thinking back to the Carter years, because, you know, Carter gave that away for $1, which I don't even understand why he did that, other than he's a Democrat, and the Democrats want to destroy the United States. That's who they are. They hate the United States. They hate you and me, if you're a patriot, that is. So, or MAGA, if you want to call it that. And so when you look at this video, because I was thinking back in high school, and, you know, if I had been a high school teacher, you know, when Carter sold that, the Panama Canal, that would have been a topic of discussion that I would have brought into my classroom and said, you know, let's study. I mean, you don't have to take sides on it. You don't have to be political about it. But you could have at least gone in and said, let's look at the history of the Panama Canal, and, you know, educated the high school students. I don't remember anybody back then even saying anything about the fact that we had given away the Panama Canal. Now, I was a teenager in high school, so maybe there was some stuff, but it certainly wasn't taught in school, which I find very deficient. Even back then, schools weren't very good. But let's watch that video, 5 minutes, right now.
Set to visit Panama this week after Trump calls to take back the Panama Canal. So what has led to this?
So let's break down the history behind it. Back in June 19th, 1902, that's when the U.S. Congress authorizes the government to build the canal through Panama. But what's significant here is this happens after hundreds of years of people, everybody from the French to the Spanish, wanting to figure out some way to find a shortcut that kept you from having to go all the way around South America to come up. They realized that this would be a massive money saver and time saver.
That's right. And so in February of 1904, Panama grants the United States government control over the canal for $10 million.
And that includes, the U.S. then had to buy property along both sides of what is now the canal in May 1904, paid $40 million for this additional property.
From the French, right?
From the French.
That's right. And then
during failed to get this thing done.
That's right. And this was a massive project. It's really hard to imagine just how they did this. 55,000 people were employed. An estimated 5,600 Americans died of injury and disease. I guess malaria was rampant at that time.
Yeah. And obviously there were massive studies at the time to try to figure out, like, one of the huge advancements for figuring out how to cure malaria, to prevent malaria, was done at this project because there were so many deaths. Panama Canal is finally officially opened in 1914 after the U.S., it took U.S. engineering, U.S. money, U.S. diplomacy to figure it all out.
That's right. And then in 1979, in what Trump calls the biggest mistake ever by Jimmy Carter, the Panama Canal was handed over to Panama.
Which is kind of especially interesting, and I just learned this last night trying to study up on this, that in the campaign for president, Jimmy Carter actually promised he would never give control of the Panama Canal away, but on December 31st, 1999, the U.S. surrendered control over the canal itself to Panama.
That's right. And then in October 22nd, by the way, my birthday, in 2006, a massive expansion of the canal was approved by the Panamanian voters. So they wanted to open it.
They did that for your birthday.
They did it for me. Yeah.
That was your third birthday.
That's right.
You were 3 years old that year.
And so here we are now, right here. So just so you understand how many, vessels get through there, 13,000 to 14,000 ships pass through the canal each year. It's about 5% of world maritime trade. Massive.
So, and of course, it's not just maritime trade. It's also military
Sure.
for military strategy. It's important. The United States is the #1 user of the canal. 40% of all container ships traverse through there annually, carrying $270 billion in cargo.
So we're still the #1 user of that canal. But there are other users, and they include Chile and China and Japan. and South Korea. And that brings us to some of the problems that we have.
So, and much of the controversies about that Trump is talking about has to deal with the Hong Kong-based conglomerate that manages two of the ports along the canal. But I would argue that there's a much bigger argument that Trump is making here right now, and you talk about this, Rachel, a lot, which is the enormous increased Chinese influence in South and Central America. And Donald Trump is saying, stop. We want, this is our hemisphere. We want to take control of it. And it's a really genius move by him to sort of flip the script on the Chinese and all of those governments down there that have been kind of playing footsie with China, even though they're in the American hemisphere.
Yeah, essentially, China has bought off a lot of the elites and government officials all over Latin America. This is a very significant, Hong Kong, it says Hong Kong, but it's China influence. China, of course, as you know, their corporations heavily, influence and with the CCP, and there's always sort of dual purposes. It's never just commercial. It's commercial, military, and their strategic priorities. So that's a big problem. Significant that Marco Rubio chose to go here first and pay attention to the Western Hemisphere for the first time in a long time.
And another example of where Donald Trump just is willing to look at things completely differently and flip the script on everybody.
Yes. All right.
Okay, so that was it. The other tidbit of news about the Panama Canal, and I'm not sure if he's still down there, because a lot of these stories are getting kind of old. I mean, if you don't keep up with the news day to day, making these videos, it's like, the things are moving so damn fast. I'm like, holy shit, I got to delete that story. That's already 2 days old, But anyway, so the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the post was he's going to Panama. So obviously he's either down there or he's already been to Panama and he's come back. So who knows? But so that means Trump is serious about this, man. If he's going to send the Secretary of State down there, just saying. But I thought after watching that history, didn't that put a whole new light on why Trump was worried about the Panama Canal? All right, let's get into the next story. This is an interesting one. And it's on the radio right now, but I don't think you're getting all the details. But anyway, we had 2 military flights that were going to fly into Colombia because the deportations have begun. And Trump is using the military planes to fly the people in. Now, Colombia said they would have taken the people on a civilian flight. From what I understand, they just didn't want U.S. military planes landing at one of their airports. And that's what I heard anyway. I got no way of verifying that, whether they would have taken the civilian. No, they definitely turned the planes around, but I don't know if they would have really accepted the civilian flights. But anyway, look at Trump, man. He announces retaliatory measures after Colombia refuses to let deportations flights land from the United States. 25% tariffs immediately, up to 50% in 1 week. Sanctions on Colombia. Travel ban, visa revocation of Colombian officials and allies. Visa sanctions on party members, Colombian government supporters. Enhanced CBP inspections of all Colombian nationals and cargo on national security grounds. Also, this didn't include it, but we also, get this, it seems like the United States gives every flipping country in the whole damn world all of our taxpayer money. I saw a figure, I think it was something like $125 million that we give Colombia in foreign aid, and it didn't say here, but from what I understand, he suspended that also, so we're not going to give them foreign aid. We shouldn't be giving them foreign aid anyway. That should just stay suspended, in my opinion. What the hell does Colombia get foreign aid from the United States for? China is buying all kinds of their stuff right now. They make plenty of money. Oh my God. So anyway, and then there was one other thing that was interesting about Colombia. If I think of it later in the video, we'll get to that. Let me pet the dog to calm him down here. Hold on. All right, boo, come on. You're okay. We're going to get going here again soon. Daddy's got to make his video. And so this is the next thing. It says, these measures are just beginning. We will not allow the Colombian government to violate its legal obligations with regard to the acceptance and return of criminals they forced into the United States. That's another thing you ought to get on Democrats about. Understand that they were, all these countries, that's why they don't want them back, man. They were shipping all their criminals. And just like Trump said, everybody doesn't take Trump seriously. He kept telling them they're sending their criminals, they're sending their worst people to the United States. Well, guess what? If they're not going to take them back, what does that tell you? They don't want the criminals back, man. I mean, and so Democrats were for shipping criminals from all over the world into the United States. You got a Democrat friend? Ask them that damn question, man. Somebody, please, God, ask a Democrat a question and get back to me. All right, so there was that story. And then this is Wall Street Mav basically saying the same thing, but you know, it's good to read it in different ways. Colombia emptied their jails and sent the worst of their people to the United States. That is why he's refusing to take them back. We should just send boats filled with them, push them overboard, and make them swim the final 300 meters. That's actually not a bad idea, because they can't stop the boats coming in from off the coast. All right? You know, you put them on a Coast Guard. I mean, what are they going to do? Try to shoot up one of our Coast Guard vessels? No, just bring the Coast Guard ship in, put the lifeboats off the side, have these criminals under gunpoint, get them, you don't want them to die. Hopefully, if they can't swim, just give them a life jacket and just push them over the side. And what's Colombia going to do then? They're going to swim right up on shore. What, are they going to shoot them? That wouldn't be a bad idea, but So anyway, this is the latest on Ukraine. If you haven't been following Ukraine, there's a lot of backdoor negotiations that are going on right now with the Russians and the Trump administration, for sure. But I think it's too little too late. I mean, the Russians are just pounding the ever-living hell out of the Ukrainians right now. And so right now you've got, you got Chaslav Yar that has fallen, Toretsk, and Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk being a major hub of logistics in the I think it's in the Donbass region. And once that falls, I mean, the Donbass is gone. So Russia will have achieved their strategic military operation goals for at least that area of the front. The other one was Velika Novosilka, Novosilka. I put that up above, which he says will fall in the coming weeks. No, man, it's falling right now. I mean, it's just about gone.
The important updates for the previous 24 hours is coming from the South Donetsk direction. According to information we have, according to the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, on January 26 of 2025, as a result of active offensive actions by units of the 5th Guards Separate Tank Brigade of the 36th Army and the 40th Guards Marine Brigade of the Vostok Group of Forces, the settlement of Velika Novosilka of the Donetsk People's Republic was taken by the Russians. So obviously this is the significant victory for the armed force of Russian Federation. Almost at the same time with the report from the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation, the Russian sources published the video from the settlement of Velika Novosilka. In this video we will see a lot of episodes, mainly about Russian flags and Russian soldiers that were celebrating the victory for the settlement. In this video we can see 2 Russian soldiers that raised the Russian flags. In the next episode we can see just a standalone flag somewhere in the central part of the settlement. In another episode we can see another flag raised by the Russians. Very interesting episode took place in the vicinity of the central stadium. In this video we can see 3 Russian soldiers that were celebrating this glorious victory ever for the Russian army. The town of Velika Novosilka was taken by the Russians within, let's say, probably a week or something like this. Telling the truth, the battle for Velika Novosilka was the fastest battle since the beginning of the special military operation when talking about towns or cities that has almost the same sizes. I'll remind you that the battle for the settlement of Velika Novosilka, more precisely the battle for the Velika Novosilka agglomeration, started somewhere on the 10th or 11th of January of 2025, so 2 weeks ago. And by the 14th of January of 2025, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, first managed to take under control the settlement by the name of Niskuchная. So that was the first target of the Russians in this area. 2 days later, by the end of the 16th of January of 2025, the Russians managed to take under complete control the settlement of Remevka. So the village of Remevka was taken by the Russians after 2 days after the fall of the settlement of Niskuchna. That was very, very fast. When the Russians secured the southern and the southwestern flanks, the Russians began advancing from the north and the northeast and from the east. And between the 16th and the 26th of January, there was the main battle for the settlement of Velika Novosilovka. So when talking about agglomeration was taken by the Russians within 16 days. When talking about Velika Novosilovka itself, this settlement was taken by the Russians within 10 days. Before the beginning of the Russian final offensive in this area, the contingent of the armed forces of Ukraine on the territory of Velika Novosilovka was more than 1,500 soldiers. Lots of Ukrainian soldiers were captured and surrendered, of course, and they managed to save their lives, but lots of Ukrainians, mainly from the forces of the 110th Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, was destroyed on the territory of the settlement. Currently, we don't know for sure the exact numbers of those the Russians managed to capture and to take as prisoners of war.
They're already taken, I want to say a quarter of it, but might even be half. And what they've done is they've trapped, there was an entire brigade, I think it was the 110th Brigade. They got them trapped in there because they put a cauldron right around it. Because for whatever reason, the Ukrainian command, they just don't care about their soldiers, man. They didn't withdraw them in time, so they're trapped. So now they either surrender or die. And from what I understand, they're dying in huge numbers. And so that whole thing, I mean, because they are just could you imagine? They can't get resupplied, so they're fighting with whatever weapons they had. The Russians have drones flying all over. By the way, if anybody from Russia or, from Russia anyway, or somebody who just knows a Russian, ask them the question, because, the artillery was known as the gods of war. And I'm wondering if now we should call drones the gods of war, because it sure does look that way to me. Because it seems to me drones are much more important now than even your artillery, because they're dropping bombs on people, they're blowing up all they pretty much made armor obsolete. You got a tank, and electronic warfare is not even a solution anymore because they got those fiber optic cables that follow the drone. I don't know how you're going to stop that. And the Russians, I did see a video from Patrick Lancaster. You might want to check him out on YouTube. It was really good. He went to the front lines, and they do shoot. I was always wondering, if you're a troop out on the field, because you can hear them drones, and it is funny because it's kind of like artillery, And if you're in the military long enough, you know what type of round is getting fired downrange. Oh, that was a mortar. That was a howitzer, because you can tell by the sound of the round going down range. Well, same thing with the drones. There's all kinds of different types of drones, and by the sound they make, they know what they are. And so it's funny in the video. He goes, no, that's just a reconnaissance drone. We don't have to worry about that. He says, but that'll be guiding in the FPV drone, which is a kamikaze drone. And you're sitting there going like, damn, and they could just tell that by the sound. Just got off on a tangent, but anyway, so. All right, so perhaps even days. Yeah, he did say perhaps even days. All right, so Nicole Shanahan. You didn't know that was RFK's running mate, and she put up a good post, and I thought this was a good summary here on why it is why a conservative PR firm is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to sink RFK's nomination. Could it be because they're also pocketing millions from big pharma and super PACs that supported Nikki Haley's campaign against Trump? This is the precise corruption the American public voted against in November. I agree. So you can see that on both sides of the aisle, they're getting kickbacks from big pharma. Boy, I tell you, big pharma's pockets are deep, aren't they? And RFK is the only one who wants to stand up to big pharma. And Trump obviously by appointing RFK, so because he has publicly come out and said So I don't know. Trump may have to look around for another nominee. Let me get back to pet the dog here. Okay, he's getting a little crazy again. This is another interesting. This is from Mario Nafal. NGOs funneled billions of tax dollars into illegal immigration under Biden. Turns out nonprofits, if you didn't know this already, you know, the Catholic Church, there was a lot of churches that were doing all kinds of nasty stuff, but they made billions of dollars off of the Democrats by basically, in my opinion, by breaking the law, because they were aiding and abetting bringing in all these illegal immigrants. Hold on, let me pet him, get him calmed down. Hold on, sorry. Get scared into the video here. Boo, calm down. I know. It's okay. So let's finish reading this. We're helping migrants. They were funding the crisis. These groups took billions in taxpayer money, often without oversight, to transport and house illegal immigrants. Data shows migrants processed by NGOs up in nearly every congressional district. Sanctuary cities were hit hardest, with taxpayers footing the bill. Under Biden, NGOs became the middlemen of illegal immigration. Trump's ICE is now digging into this mess that the Democrats, or he, left behind, says. Source: the American Conservative, Heritage, and News Nation Now. So, isn't that unbelievable? I'm going to go down this. This is a fire trail. I'm going to show you it. Hey, California, maybe you should do like a fire break every now and then. You know, this is one of our fire breaks. Tough hiking, but we're just gonna go this way for a bit. So this is Hustle Bitch. Isn't that a hell of a X name? You know, I'm just ThatCyberSecurityGuy on X. Maybe I should change. I go by my own personal name because I wanted people to know who I am. You know, a lot of people, you know, cat turd and hustle bitch, and and so maybe I should change it to something more fun. But anyway, I don't know. Then nobody would ever know who I was. But so hustle bitch. Just days after Biden leaves office, President Trump's administration has located nearly 80,000 of the 350,000 missing children. Where the hell was Biden hiding them? Good damn question. Now, you know, people that push back. How do you know they were being sex trafficked? How do you know that they were being raped? Well, we're finding out. Give it time. This is Real Scott Ritter. I thought that this was good because they did a post in response to a Democrat about Pete getting nominated. And he says, he already shook you up. That's a good start. The U.S. defense establishment, Pete Hegseth, okay, if you don't know who I was talking about, is fundamentally broken and mired in corruption and inefficiency. The last thing America needed was another retired four-star with intimate connections to the military-industrial complex, which is what you're proposing. Revolutionary change requires revolutionaries, and Pete Hegseth is a revolutionary, and that's very much true. And then a lot of people are they're quoting Lord Austin's credentials, saying that Pete is unqualified, and a lot of Democrats are quoting this anyway. Austin was the biggest DEI idiot that's ever been in charge, man. I mean, if you don't know that, Hegseth, man, he's been to war and back. He's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to the changes that he makes. Because you know what? If you haven't been on the battlefield, you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. So let's keep going. Just in, President Trump, that's a video, by the way. So we'll read it first, and then I'll get you the video. President Trump shuts up Democrat Congressman Brad Sherman after he tried to defend FEMA. By the way, if you didn't watch my last video, it's on North Carolina and FEMA. And Trump was blasting him in that video, but this is another video I found. Because FEMA's got to go away. And we'll just let the military and the National Guard take care of disasters in the future. He then got a loud round of applause. Trump, the problem with FEMA is they come from all over the country. They end up in arguments with your people from California because they want to do it a totally different way. You haven't gotten very much done with FEMA because all you have to do is look at North Carolina. It's one of the greatest disasters of all time. You know who came in and fixed North Carolina or is in the process? Other states and people from all over the country and some people in North Carolina. FEMA didn't do shit. So get rid of FEMA. All right, let's watch that video.
Mr. President, if I can just defend FEMA a little bit.
Yeah.
They brought thousands of people in. I don't know how they're doing in other states. They're doing a good job for us here. They've got a huge center that's open from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. But also, when you have a disaster this size, you need to be able to deploy thousands of people, which they've been able to do. Now, California, if we did it on our own, maybe we'd have thousands of people.
You do.
But if Rhode Island has a Palisades disaster, are they then supposed to keep?
How many people do you have in California? 36. How many million? How many million people do you have?
But
you have 40 million people. You're not going to get a few thousand people. The problem with FEMA is they come from all over the country. They end up in arguments with you people from California because they want to do it a totally different way. And I can live either way, but you haven't gotten very much done with FEMA and all you have to do is look at North Carolina. It's one of the great disasters of all time.
And Mr. President, you can't have Rhode Island maintain a staff of thousands and thousands of people waiting to see if they have a disaster.
You know who came in and fixed North Carolina or in the process? Other states, people from all over the country came. And you have the same thing. You have a lot of people from all over the country. Getting the people is not a problem. Getting the organization is a big problem. FEMA's incompetently run, and it costs about 3 times more than it should cost.
I'm hoping
we can spend money on schools instead of giving money to bureaucracy. It takes you so much longer.
Mr. President, I
takes you so much longer
for helping our people.
FEMA has a standard, Brad, and I'm a builder. I was a very good builder. FEMA has a standard that's so slow. They want permit on permit on permit, and then they want permits on top of that. If you use FEMA, you'll be here for a long time. What I'm saying is get the city, get the state to give you immediate 24-hour permits. These people are going to build their own homes. They're going to get them built fast.
All right, so that was that video. I think, and this is kind of a list of all the things that Trump is doing. So whether you agree or not, I'm just going to list them out. He basically gave if you want to, you definitely should watch the whole thing. He basically entered, zoomed into the World Economic Forum and just laid into him, man. It was awesome. He went on and on about how, I mean, he didn't put it this way, but the way that I interpret it is they suck. And we're not going to be listening to these globalist lunatics no more. That was kind of the gist of it, but definitely watch the whole thing. It was great. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. He defunded the World Health Organization 1 year from, well, and by the way, these were my notes. From what I understand, it won't take effect until 1 year from today because of contractual agreements. It's kind of like Russia. A lot of people didn't understand why Ukraine or Russia was pumping oil through the pipelines in Ukraine to Europe. And the reason is because they were under contract. And Russia's, I mean, whether you hate Russia or love them, I don't care, but they're very serious about their contracts. I mean, if I were them and I'm fighting, I would have just cut that oil off to Europe and said, screw you, man. You guys are giving the Ukrainians weapons. We're not going to give you any oil. But anyway, so that, but that's just, that was just a tidbit. And as a result, the World Health Organization says they're going to downsize. Now look at think about what the World Health, they were totally useless. They're in the pocket of China, man. And we're sitting there, we give them, I don't know how many, 300 million, and China's giving them 25 million or something like that. And yet they listen to what China has to say. Remember, they were saying it didn't come from a lab. And they were telling the world that we had to lock down, and they went along with the mask requirement. The World Health Organization's been wrong about every damn thing. Talk to a Democrat. They'll say, oh, the World Health Organization, they're the greatest thing ever. We love the World Health Organization. Trump defunding the World Health Organization is the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. Oh, man, just makes me mad. Well, and I guess I don't want to give opinions on these. Designated the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. Biden removed the terrorist designation even after they fired on our Navy warships, launched numerous attacks on civilian infrastructure, and attacked commercial vessels over 100 times. Granted clemency to Terrace Sutton and Andrew ThatCyberSecurityGuy. I don't even know who that is, man. I don't know who either one of those. Memorandum for emergency price relief. Directed federal agencies to eliminate administrative expenses and something, I can't read the word, seeking, we'll put it up above, practices that increase healthcare costs. Eliminated counterproductive regulations raising the cost of home appliances. Eliminated coercive green energy policies driving up the cost of fuel and food. Regulatory burdens passed under Biden imposed almost $50,000 in costs for the average American household, so he's getting rid of that. EO declaring I don't know what EO stands for. EO declaring a national emergency at the southern border. Oh, I guess emergency order, that's right. Yeah, we already talked about that in a previous video. Directed the Secretary of Defense to deploy attritional personnel to the border, including members of the armed force of the National Guard. Told you it's going to be a long video. We're getting to page 3 now, man. Oh, man, I tell you, but I had to take the notes because you just go a couple days and you're like, man, so much shit is going on. It's insane. All right, so let's get page 3. I'm just going to drop page 2 here. All right. Directs the Secretary of Defense and Homeland Security to finish the wall along the southern border and ensure the Department of Health and Services, or DHS, Department of Homeland Security has flexibility. It needs to operate air missions near the border. We should be flying drones. Those drones that are flying over New Jersey, if there are drones, let's move them to the border, right? So from what I understand, those drones are still flying. And Trump said he was going to tell us what they were. He still hasn't done that. I mean, I guess there's only so much you can do. Rescinded the COVID vax requirement for legal immigrants as part of their application for lawful permanent status. Signed an EO banning DEI practices in all departments and agencies, and will review the overhaul federal contracting processes to block companies implementing diversity quotas. The Department of Justice issued a memo putting state and local officials on notice that they will prosecute them if they attempt to interfere with federal immigration enforcement actions. I wanted to add to that just a little bit. Okay, you got, I think it's Illinois and, well, obviously California. I don't understand why nobody has suggested to Trump, just deport the damn illegal immigrants. Maybe not the criminals. The criminals we want to get out of the country. I agree with that. But I'm saying that anybody else that gets picked up that hasn't got a criminal record, just give them to the Democrat states, man. They want the illegal aliens, right? Let me pet him again. And so just send them to Illinois, man. Drop them in Chicago. What the hell? There's a turf war going on there anyway. Let them battle it out with all the criminals. The other criminals are on the streets. Let the criminals go after criminals. Solentis agrees to bring 1,500 manufacturing jobs back. We're getting close to the end. I know. Like, no, man, no, I can't take no more. I can't take no more. Russia urges Trump to clarify Ukraine policy. Ukraine's deputy ambassador, this is DD Geopolitics, by the way, to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, stated that President Trump has the opportunity to end America's malicious policy in Ukraine. We need to see what agreement means in President Trump's understanding. Polyansky said, referring to 2014, making it anti-Russian and preparing it for war against us. But now he has the Moscow awaits clarity on Trump's approach to resolving the conflict. Now, if you haven't followed along, Trump's getting a lot of bad advice from the agencies. And there's a lot of speculation on that. Maybe Trump's just going along with their numbers. He said there was 1 million dead Russians. It's nowhere near that amount. The figure put out by Russia is 80,000. And if you went with the 8-to-1 ratio, but they're saying now it's more like 15, 20-to-1, that'll give you an estimate on the Ukrainian casualties. But the numbers I'm seeing coming out, like 3,400 dying in 2 days was one post. So I imagine we're at about 1.3, 1.4 dead Ukrainians. And so casualties, times that by 3. And that's so, basically Ukraine, they're going to cease to exist, man. All right. So, and let's do a reading. This is an excellent thread. It's by Rod D. Martin. We'll get that right now.
And the most important updates are coming from the United States of America, where the 47th president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, made ultimatum to Russia and to Vladimir Putin. Let's discuss this article in details. I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love Russian people and always had a very good relationship with President Putin, and this despite the radical left's Russia, and many other things. We must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. All of that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favor. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal, and soon, I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which never would have started if I were president, over with. We can do it in the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost. So during this statement, Donald Trump made lots of mistakes, but it's not maybe mistakes. I believe that he made them for a reason, and the most important is not just that Trump was trying to push Putin and to force him to surrender or something like this. It's not about sanctions. Russia have been living in sanctions for the previous 10 or 20 years, and during the Soviet period of time, Russia lived in sanctions as well. So it's not a very big problem for Russia, and they will find a solution how to make everything work. But the biggest problem, as I understand, is that the United States of America and Donald Trump tried to force Russia to accept everything Western, to accept and to forget its own history. You know that Trump says that we must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. And as for me, this is the biggest mistake that was made by Donald Trump during this statement. Because according to Russian understanding of the history, the Soviet Union won the Second World War. The Soviet Union, losing almost 60 million lives, won that war, and the Western countries, including the United States of America, United Kingdom, and many other countries were helping Russians and Soviet Union to win that war. And this is the biggest mistake, because according to this statement, Putin should accept that the United States of America won and the Western countries won the Second World War, and the Russians were just helping them to do this. And Putin will never accept this, because this is completely different understanding of the situation, of Soviet understanding of the situation. This statement not just force the Russians to accept the Western realities, but this statement forced Russia and Putin to reject his own history. By the way, Putin's father, died during the Second World War, and now Donald Trump wants to say that Putin should accept that his father was helping the United States of America to win the Second World War, and he, lost his life during this process working for the United States of America. Putin will never accept this. And this statement was made at the beginning of this ultimatum, and when I get just this part, I realized that maybe even Putin didn't read further to the bottom, because everything was wrong since the beginning. So let's wait and see what the Russians are going to do with this.
All right, this is an excellent thread by Rod D. Martin. Well, I'm not even following him. I'm going to follow him now. All right, so breaking inside the massive Trump DOJ shakeup, you need to know about a thread that will blow your mind. Let me tell you what's really happening behind closed doors at the DOJ right now. 20-plus career officials sidelined overnight. This is just the beginning. Bombshell, Trump's team isn't waiting for Senate confirmations. They're moving now, pushing out long-term prosecutors who've been there for years. These are people who've been policing justice for years. No longer. The Merrick Garland reign of terror is over. Now, from what I understand, if this is the Attorney Generals that he fired, they're refusing to go. And I guess that'll have to be settled in a court of law. The purge is hitting every major division: the criminal division, national security, and international affairs. Rod D. Martin. Here's the genius part. They found a loophole to make this stick. Federal regulations generally protect career employees from being reassigned for at least 120 days after new leadership takes over. But Pam Bondi hasn't been confirmed yet, and firings come from the acting AG. So that's pretty cool. It gets even better. Ed Martin, yes, the Stop the Steal organizer, is now DC's acting U.S. attorney. Let that sink in. So the longer they go without confirming Pam Bondi, we got this dude in there now. Because if you recall, Chris Wray, that corrupt son of a gun, he resigned. Martin's record, leader of the Eagle Forum, wants total abortion ban, 0 exceptions for rape and incest, fought to expose and stop the 2020 election fraud, defended the J6 political printers. That's Martin's record now. So that's the dude that's doing things. So it's great. So meanwhile, in New York, John Dunham's son, yes, that's John Durham, Durham, takes over for EDNY. Dad investigated the origins of the Russia collusion hoax. Son has gone after illegal aliens, including MS-13 gang members. It just gets better and better. Meanwhile, by the way, just think about how corrupt the damn Democrats were. I mean, oh my God, it's just so unbelievable. Meanwhile, all-important SDNY gets Danelle Sassoon, the prosecutor who took down Sam Bankman-Fried and prominent sex traffickers. She's even clerked for Justice Scalia. At least someone has a real track record. I tell you, that's why I had to read this. But wait, it gets better. The FBI shakeup is just beginning. And this is even before Kash Patel arrives. It's getting wild. Tom Ferguson, who worked for Jim Jordan on investigating the I'll put it in the description of government, is back at the FBI. He spent 22 years there before joining Team Jordan. A look at Ferguson's LinkedIn reveals he hates woke ideology. He fights socialism, says FBI forgot their oath, and now he's back in charge as part of the FBI's new leadership. Christopher Wray, gone. Paul Abedi, retired. The people who weaponize law enforcement against half the country are falling like dominoes. This is what draining the swamp looks like in real time, as I've been telling you all week. Heads are finally rolling. The deep state tried to kill Trump, and he's taking no prisoners this time. The truth. This isn't just a shakeup. It's a complete overhaul of our justice system. It's the only way to restore equal justice. It's long overdue, and we're waiting for it to happen in real time. Stay tuned for more updates, and that's why I just had to read that thread. Apologize for the dog barking. I don't know why he's going crazy. There's nothing down there to bark at. So there he is again. So we're getting close to the end of the video. May have to put this up as 2 videos. We'll see how it goes. All right, so we're just about there. So this was a great video. This is Trump and Karen Bass going at it on the water to put out the fires. The video speaks for itself. Let's just watch that now.
You have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because you have a very powerful emergency power, and
yes,
you can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is for people to be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing, and they say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them, everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
That was last night.
And that was last night. On it.
We can't even see our homes right now. We are blocked from entering our streets. Right. We can't even. This is our first time we saw our house. It was yesterday.
Mr. President, We're going to be together next week, and during the interim, many of us are involved in, and Tom McClintock, who you know has been an expert on this for years.
That's right.
We are going to be putting conditions on the money that do two things. Require that it be done timely and affordable, and then secondly, that we protect those who will come afterwards. As we speak, there are 6,000 acres burning in my district on the Mexican border. There will be more fires until we include in any disaster relief items which will prevent it or at least mitigate it from happening again. So you're going to see us proposing both of those.
Like water. Little things like
do
water.
that for them.
You know, the party of common sense. See, we're the party of common sense. You're not, in all fairness.
Yes, sir.
We like water to put out fires. It's really quite efficient. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so that was that. And then we've got another to finish off with, and this is from Insurrection Barbie. People are being flown out of the country as we speak and saying they will not be recommending that people cross the border. This is what we've always been saying. Joe Biden opened the border. Joe Biden's policies made it more lucrative for illegals to jump the border. Joe Biden's policies facilitated their permanent stay in America within 4 days. President Trump has completely changed the border situation. One thing she didn't point out was Mayorkas was actually down at the Darien Gap putting them on buses personally. And then, of course, they were flying them, you know, when the border got clogged. It got so clogged that then they started spending taxpayer money to fly them in from all over the world. And remember, they put together that app? So they were sending planes all over the world to fly them into the United States. Now, from what I understand, Mayorkas, I don't think he got a pardon, did he? I'm hoping that maybe we can get that bastard and put him in jail, because that's treason right there. And Austin, well, I can't say Austin's a traitor. He's just dumber than hell. But Milley, of course, Milley got the pardon, unfortunately. But still, there's got to be something we can do to Milley. But anyway, that's let's watch the video. All right, so we're going to be done right there. You guys, peace out and stay free. All right, so the sun is setting here. I thought that was a pretty clip, but I just wanted we'll keep it focused on right there. Just what, two more quick things to add to the video. Remember those memes? Trump was right about everything. Trump was right about everything. And he always came out right about everything. Anyway, I'm listening to Handle on the Law, and there's two cases I wanted to quote to you. Was the first one was, if you ever watched the clip of Trump just abusing those people in Los Angeles, or I don't know if it was in that clip that I showed you in the video, but anyway, and he was talking about the permitting, and Handel was saying that in Los Angeles, California, they have multiple permitting agencies that you have to work through. So like if you're going to build on the coast, you have a coastal permitting agency, which goes inland 5 miles. And then you got other permitting. He said it can take up to 5 years in California to start building something, to get through the permitting process. Can you believe that shit? And so Trump was right about everything. The other story that I wanted to get, we'll get him going, was, there he is. All right, there he is, Sled Dog. He's Sled Dog Boo. Was that he was talking about a fentanyl case. Now, there were two they became illegal aliens, but there was 2 Chinese nationals that were arrested in Fuji. And in Fuji, they were convicted. They had enough chemicals to develop enough fentanyl to kill 25 million people, and they were convicted. And I guess Fuji, rather than put them in jail, just kicked them out. Or because of the Biden administration, they must have been put on a flight, and then they were brought to the United States. Well, ICE picked them up not too long ago, and so here they were, convicted of enough fentanyl to kill 25 million people, and Biden brought them into the United States. Talk to a Democrat about that. Why do you want 25 million Americans dying from fentanyl? Ask a Democrat that. Somebody, please God, ask a Democrat a question.
hay mucha migra y todos están cayendo. No les recomiendo cruzar porque hay un chingo de...